The Middle Ages, a period often romanticized with tales of knights, castles, and noble deeds. But what if we look deeper, peering into the harsh and grim reality where each day was a fight for survival? This story will lead you through one day in the life of a medieval banker, a moneylender whose profession provoked hatred and contempt from those around him. From early morning until the anxious arrival of night, you'll pass through filth and disease, confront threats and dangers, and feel firsthand the pressures from authority and the church. You'll experience just how harsh, dirty, and merciless everyday life could be in those distant times. But before you settle in, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, let me know in the comments which city you're watching from and what time it is there. It's always fascinating to see who has joined us today. And now, make yourself comfortable. We're about to begin. You wake up early, before dawn breaks over the muddy, grimy streets outside your window. Your first realization is the familiar sensation of cold, damp sheets clinging unpleasantly to your weary skin. You know, without checking, that the linen is infested with mold again, just as it has been nearly every night of your miserable life. Such is the price you pay for wealth. Comfort, as you understand, remains an illusion. The acrid, musty smell of decay is a constant reminder that prosperity and cleanliness rarely keep company in this gloomy era. You drag yourself upright with a sigh, bones cracking audibly, reminding you once more that life expectancy is short and each passing year ages you tenfold. The rough stone walls of your bedroom sweat with moisture, patches of moss flourishing where sunlight never reaches. You have repeatedly paid masons to fix the roof, but repairs never last. Everything here decays quickly, your wealth included. Cursing quietly, you step onto the cold stone floor. Immediately, you recoil. A rat dashes across your foot, squealing angrily as it retreats back into the shadows. Rats are your permanent housemates, companions unwillingly tolerated because extermination is a futile pursuit. You resignedly accept that these vile creatures will outlast you, scurrying among your treasures long after you're forgotten. Lighting a candle, you survey your chambers. Furniture is sparse, and what little you possess is worn and grim. Your large wooden chest, the repository of coins and documents, stands against a damp wall, its iron hinges rusted, making opening it each day a noisy ordeal. The persistent creak of its lid echoes as you check your meager personal accounts, which confirm the bitter truth. Despite your apparent wealth, true prosperity remains elusive. Debts are everywhere, loans extended rarely paid back willingly, and each morning you live with the uncertainty of eventual ruin. You dress hastily in clothes that bear signs of frequent mending, despite your supposed prosperity. Your clothes must appear modest, for ostentation breeds envy, and envy breeds threats. Still, even your attempts at humility fail to win sympathy. Instead, they draw whispers of disdain from those who loathe you, calling you a parasite and a sinner for profiting from the desperation of others. Descending the rickety wooden staircase, you reach the hearth. The faint warmth from last night's embers barely lingers. Food is already waiting, a stale chunk of dark bread and a bowl of weak broth, lukewarm and gray. This sparse meal, devoid of nourishment or taste, serves only as fuel for another exhausting day. Your stomach protests at the monotonous fare, but better food would only draw unwanted attention from neighbors who watch your every move with envy. Just as you swallow your first reluctant bite, there's an aggressive knock at your door. You pause, teeth clenched. Such early visitors rarely bring good news. Still, ignoring them only worsens your reputation, a risk you cannot afford. Rising stiffly, you open the door, facing the foul morning air and an even fouler expression on your visitor's face. Before you stands a bulky, aggressive tradesman named Baldwin, a debtor whose repeated failures to repay have become infamous in town. His demeanor is aggressive, and his breath reeks of ale. You devilish leech! Baldwin spits venomously, his red, bloated face inches from your own. You've taken enough from me. Patiently, you remind Baldwin once again that loans are willingly accepted. Yet your carefully rehearsed explanation falls on deaf ears. Baldwin hurls curses, calls you vile names, and threatens violence. You remain outwardly composed, but inwardly you shudder, knowing all too well the thin line separating you from mortal danger. This man could crush your skull and leave you bleeding in the mud. No one in town would mourn your passing. Few would even intervene. Eventually, after prolonged angry ranting, Baldwin departs, leaving you shaking and anxious. You close your door, locking it tightly, feeling the cold sweat trickle down your neck. This life is a constant balancing act between survival and disaster. You are not respected, merely feared and despised. Worse, Baldwin's rage today is no isolated event. Every debtor you meet resents you, blaming you for their misfortunes. They conveniently forget their desperation and please when asking for loans, recalling only your demands for repayment, making you the villain in their tales. The sun slowly rises, casting sickly rays through dirty windows. Outside, life awakens with noise and filth. Vendors shouting in the streets, pigs rooting through garbage piles, beggars moaning their endless suffering. The stench of waste, refuse, and decay seeps through every crack in your walls. This smell is your constant companion, yet another reminder that wealth never truly elevates you above the misery of your age. You sit again, finishing the now cold broth, its watery bitterness lingering on your tongue. The brief quiet provides moments of uneasy reflection. You chose this profession, or rather, circumstances chose it for you, but your dreams of luxury and safety have vanished, leaving only grim survival. Every passing day weighs heavier, the burden of your choices clearer and crueler. Despite this, a glimmer of defiance remains within you. You rise from your meal, determined to face another dreary day, counting filthy coins, maintaining meticulous ledgers, and enduring the relentless scorn of your neighbors. This tedious routine is your only shield against poverty and ruin. In your world, every action is driven by the simple and brutal arithmetic of survival. A sudden commotion outside interrupts your brooding. Peering cautiously through a crack in the shutters, you watch as two peasants argue violently over some trivial dispute. The argument swiftly escalates to blows, neighbors shouting encouragement or insults. You see faces you know, faces who have knelt in your doorway, begging for loans they now bitterly regret. Their fury at each other seems misplaced, yet such petty conflicts are daily spectacles in these miserable streets, each one a grim reminder that life here is cheap and brutish. You step back, shivering slightly in the damp chill, retreating from the violence unfolding outside. For now, your door is closed, your sanctuary, however bleak, temporarily shields you from the world's ugliness. Yet you know it cannot last. Soon enough, you must venture outside, confront the hatred, the filth, and the threats lurking everywhere. As you gather your keys and documents, steeling yourself for departure, dread tightens your chest. You wonder briefly if today will be the day disaster finally strikes, the day someone acts on their hatred. Yet there is no alternative but to persist. The world beyond your door awaits, unforgiving, filthy, and perilous. With a resigned sigh, you push open the heavy door, stepping into the chaos once more, uncertain whether you'll return safely at day's end or vanish unnoticed. Another casualty of an era that treats life as cheaply as your coins. This grim thought accompanies you into the filthy streets, where the first part of your day concludes, bleakly promising more of the same darkness yet to come. Stepping onto the street, you immediately feel the hostility. The gazes of your neighbors stab at you like dull knives, filled not with curiosity but malice and suspicion. They whisper openly behind dirt stained hands, making no secret of their contempt. You recognize the muttered words usurer, leech, parasite, labels hurled your way daily. Your journey to the counting house is brief, but each step drags painfully, burdened with paranoia. The muddy street, slick with refuse and waste, coats your boots instantly. Each step squelches grotesquely. Street dogs snap and bark, fighting over spoiled scraps of meat. Pigs root freely in the garbage heaps, scattering filth. A pair of beggars stare hollow eyed, holding out crusted, trembling hands. You look away quickly, knowing that charity invites resentment, and withholding it breeds hatred. Reaching your establishment, you unlock the heavy wooden door with a large iron key, rusted from the damp climate. Your counting house, grandly named, but more accurately described as a cramped, foul smelling shack, is your sanctuary, your fortress, and your prison. Inside, darkness greets you. Even daylight seems reluctant to enter. You light candles, the weak flames casting sickly, flickering shadows on the grimy walls. Everywhere are shelves filled with ledgers, boxes of dirty coins, and faded contracts. These papers represent the fragile threads binding your safety, proof of debts owed, agreements struck, desperate promises given. You cough immediately. choking on the dust and mold disturbed by your presence. The perpetual stench of damp parchment, rotting wood, and stale sweat is nauseating yet familiar. Your assistant, Gerard, soon enters with a defeated look. A thin, nervous man, perpetually ill, Gerard embodies the misery of your profession. His face, pale and hollow eyed, signals the constant battle between illness and poverty. Each cough he emits reminds you of the ever present threat of disease, a threat lurking on every coin and scrap of parchment passing through your hands. The day's first customer arrives, Alric, a blacksmith who borrowed money to rebuild his forge. As he approaches, his eyes narrow dangerously. His debt is overdue, and you both know it. Without greetings, Alric begins pleading, voice cracking under pressure. He tells stories of sick children, stolen tools, and poor harvests, excuses you've heard hundreds of times. You listen silently, expression carefully blank, offering neither sympathy nor judgment. Your calm facade enrages him further. Alric slams his fist down, rattling the worn table. Spittle sprays your documents, staining the parchment with moisture and contempt. You heartless wretch, he spits bitterly. Have you no mercy? You consider mercy briefly, then recall past betrayals. Mercy, in your line of work, has always proven costly and futile. Quietly, you insist he must pay, reminding him of penalties for failure. The blacksmith's face darkens, rage simmering beneath desperate eyes. You feel a familiar chill, another enemy made, another life now dangerously intertwined with yours. Throughout the morning, the scene repeats endlessly, sobbing widows begging reprieve, tradesmen angrily threatening violence, farmers insisting their harvests have failed yet again. Each plea or threat wears you down, stripping away layers of your resolve, leaving you feeling dirty, tired, and hated. Midday brings no relief, only new forms of discomfort. A foul meal of dried meat, stale bread, and watered ale is eaten hastily between confrontations. Gerard coughs violently beside you, his sickness worsening visibly with every passing day. You wonder how soon illness will claim him, and perhaps you too. Suddenly, the door crashes open, shaking the walls of your flimsy establishment. Baldwin returns, this time with companions. Three men, all burly, all glaring at you with undisguised menace. Baldwin's earlier anger has fermented into violent intent. His eyes blaze, face purple with rage and alcohol. You will forgive my debt today, or suffer, Baldwin growls, voice low and dangerous. The threat hangs heavy, unmistakable in meaning. You feel fear's cold grasp around your throat. Still, your voice remains steady, firm even, as you remind him of the town's laws. Laws rarely enforced, you know well, yet your only shield against outright violence. Baldwin laughs harshly, mocking your pathetic authority. He moves forward, hands balling into fists, preparing for violence. Your heart pounds loudly, drowning out the street's noise. Yet you force yourself to appear calm. Any sign of weakness now means ruin or death. But luck intervenes. Through your window passes a patrol of the city guard, catching Baldwin's attention. He curses viciously, spitting at your feet. Next time, banker, your laws won't protect you. The men retreat, leaving you trembling but alive for now. The remainder of the afternoon drags painfully slow, each minute crawling torturously. You count and recount coins endlessly: copper, silver, tarnished gold, all coated in grime, sticky with sweat and filth. The coins themselves seem to mock you, reminders of how much disgust, hatred, and disease passes through your fingertips each day. As evening approaches, the priest, Father Elias, arrives uninvited, face serene, yet eyes calculating. His robes smell faintly of incense, barely masking body odor and unwashed wool. You brace yourself, knowing precisely what he desires. Good banker, he begins smoothly, a smile masking judgment. The church needs your generosity. Your soul needs redemption. You sigh inwardly, already calculating how many coins salvation costs today. And if I refuse, Father? The priest's smile disappears instantly, replaced with cold menace. Then God's judgment will surely find you swift and merciless, and your neighbors, they already despise you. Without the church's support, who will stop them? You grit your teeth, submitting bitterly. Coins exchange hands, your precious profits shrinking yet again. The priest leaves satisfied, leaving behind only guilt and resentment. Finally, as darkness gathers outside, Gerard coughs violently again. Blood speckles his sleeve, stark against pale skin. You realize bitterly that illness and death loom closer each day. Disease is not only Gerard's fate, it may soon become your own. You lock away your coins and papers, exhausted and filthy from handling so much dirt and disease ridden currency. Blowing out candles plunges the counting house into deeper gloom, shadows twisting into threatening shapes. Silence feels oppressive, broken only by Gerard's labored breathing and your racing thoughts. Stepping onto the street once more, you brace yourself for the hostile journey home. The townspeople watch you again with undisguised hatred. Baldwin's threats echo ominously in your memory. Today, survival was luck. Tomorrow might not be as forgiving. Returning home through the filth laden streets, you reflect grimly. Your profession, once promising wealth, comfort, and security, now only guarantees danger, sickness, loneliness, and constant fear. But there is no escape from this brutal existence. You must continue, knowing tomorrow holds the same exhausting struggles and bitter conflicts, perpetuating an endless cycle of dirt, threats, hatred, and despair. The next morning begins no differently than the one before, another grim awakening, another day bound to the relentless cycle of your miserable profession. Yet, today carries a particular foreboding. Gerard's worsening condition lingers ominously in your mind, and Baldwin's threat still echoes bitterly. Rising with a weary sigh, you dress in damp, mold infested clothing, preparing yourself for another round of filthy coin counting, unpleasant customers, and hidden dangers. Arriving at the counting house, You immediately notice Gerard hunched at his desk, face pallid, eyes bloodshot, hands trembling noticeably. His condition has deteriorated overnight. Dark smudges beneath his eyes betray sleeplessness and exhaustion, and as he greets you weakly, his violent coughing resumes, each convulsion deeper and wetter than before. You look away sharply, heart sinking. Disease thrives within these walls. Coins, touched by countless filthy hands, circulate infections like invisible death warrants. Every exchange is a gamble. Every touch risks illness or worse. Gerard, your loyal, unfortunate assistant, stands as painful proof of this grim reality. You already wonder how soon you too will succumb to whatever pestilence has begun claiming your companion. Ignoring your dread, you force yourself into routine, handling the currency. You carefully spread the coins onto your scarred wooden table, fingers growing increasingly sticky from layers of grime and grease. Each copper piece, dull silver penny, or tarnished gold coin comes burdened with its own foul residue, dirt, sweat, blood, and saliva, now dried into a thick crust. You grimace, fighting down waves of nausea as you meticulously count and catalog your profits. After each stack, you rub your hands desperately, knowing it won't cleanse the invisible sickness. By midday, your skin itches intensely from the filth accumulated. Gerard's coughing grows steadily worse, each hacking spasm rattling his fragile frame. His breath comes ragged and wheezing, flecks of blood increasingly staining the cuffs of his tunic. You quietly urge him to return home, but Gerard stubbornly refuses, too afraid of poverty to abandon work. The silent understanding between you deepens, both aware this will soon end tragically. Another customer enters, the butcher's wife, Agnes. Her plump face, usually ruddy from hard work, now appears pale and worried. Her husband's debts remain unpaid, and her nervousness is clear, sweat beading on her forehead, despite the chill of your office. Please, sir, Agnes begins meekly, her voice shaking slightly. My husband is ill. We fear it may be plague. Your heart freezes momentarily. Plague, one dreaded word, carries the weight of terror unlike any other. If true, your life may already be marked for death. She reaches into her pocket, pulling forth a small sack of coins, thrusting them toward you with trembling hands. Coins infected, no doubt, with whatever pestilence grips her household. You accept the coins carefully, holding them away from yourself with barely concealed revulsion. Agnes leaves quickly, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. As she departs, your heart pounds, pulse quickening with panic. Have you just sealed your fate by accepting contaminated money? Each coin in your hand suddenly feels heavier, tainted, dangerous. You hastily pour vinegar over your fingers, hoping futilely to ward off disease. Hours drag by as fear gnaws deeper. More coins arrive, each potentially more dangerous than the last. The counting house seems to close in around you, air thickening with imagined contagion. Your paranoia grows, every customer's cough or sneeze now a death sentence. Hands shaking, You continue counting mechanically, coins clinking softly, a sound now sinister rather than comforting. Gerard finally collapses late afternoon, coughing violently until blood coats his palm. Kneeling beside him, dread clutches your chest. His breath comes shallow, gasping desperately. Pale lips mumble incoherently, delirium taking hold. With help from a reluctant neighbor, you carry him home, laying him in bed, silently knowing you have done nothing but prolong inevitable suffering. Returning alone, darkness deepens your fears. The empty counting house feels eerily silent and abandoned, echoing with Gerard's lingering agony. Again, you consider every coin lying on your table, now imagining them pulsing with disease, vessels of infection passed from person to person, house to house, carrying invisible death through every transaction. Your skin burns with imagined fever, sweat beads across your brow, and your throat tightens with anxiety. You swallow hard, feeling an ominous ache growing in your joints, fatigue suddenly overwhelming. Panic spikes sharply, adrenaline surging as you consider your symptoms, real or imagined. Disease and paranoia blur into a single, nightmarish certainty. Illness is inevitable. It is only a matter of time. As evening falls, desperate for distraction, you begin scrubbing coins furiously with vinegar soaked cloths, hoping against hope to disinfect them. The smell of vinegar mixes nauseatingly with metallic grime, creating a sickening scent. Each coin cleaned reveals only more accumulated dirt, symbolic of your futile efforts to control your fate. Exhaustion grips tightly, your fingers raw, cracked, and bleeding from scrubbing. Eventually, defeat forces you to stop, leaving behind piles of tarnished currency and soiled rags. Defeated and exhausted, you slouch onto your stool, head pounding with stress and fear. Alone in your dim office, silence oppressive, darkness swallowing the walls, you realize clearly the price of your occupation. Money, filthy and diseased, now threatens to claim your life. Slowly you lock away the coins, hands trembling uncontrollably. You douse yourself in vinegar again, desperately scrubbing your arms until skin reddens painfully. Even as you lock up, paranoia whispers darkly that infection already courses silently through your veins, unstoppable, inevitable. Outside, night has fully enveloped the streets in darkness. As you step into the chilling air, the few torches flickering along the streets seem feeble, casting grotesque shadows. Your footsteps echo emptily, every sound amplifying fear. You avoid others carefully, eyes darting nervously, now viewing everyone as carriers of plague or worse. Arriving home, your heart sinks deeper. Your dwelling, damp and filthy as always, now appears as an incubator of disease. Rats skitter noisily behind walls, symbols of pestilence. Your stomach churns violently, rejecting food. You drink stale wine in trembling gulps, hoping alcohol might cleanse internal corruption, knowing such hopes are foolish. You crawl into your mold infested bed, damp sheets wrapping around you like a shroud. Sleep offers no refuge, Only nightmares await, visions of Gerard's pale, dying face mingling with images of filthy coins, blackened by disease, passed endlessly from one infected hand to another, spiraling outward into an uncontrollable epidemic. You wake repeatedly, feverish, soaked in cold sweat, each nightmare more vivid and terrible than the last. Finally, morning arrives again, bleak sunlight streaming weakly through grimy shutters, rising unsteadily, every muscle aching, head throbbing. You understand bitterly that this cycle cannot last. Disease and danger shadow every step, every coin a threat, every breath contaminated. Yet, despite your growing dread, survival demands action. You dress carefully, forcing your weakened body back into routine. The counting house awaits, coins still stacked high, disease ridden and dangerous. There is no escape, only endurance. One more day amid filth, sickness, and perpetual fear. You awaken feeling weaker, your throat raw, head heavy from restless nightmares. The haunting echo of Gerard's desperate cough fills your memory, and with a sinking heart, you wonder briefly if your fate will mirror his. Disease remains a constant, lurking threat, but today brings fresh torments. Authority, both civil and divine, has decided to intrude upon your precarious existence once again, dragging yourself out of bed, bones aching sharply. You dress with forced haste, clothes damp as usual, smelling faintly of mildew. You exit into the streets, greeted instantly by the hostile eyes of neighbors, judging, whispering, scheming. The very stones beneath your feet seem to conspire against you, slick with filth, unsteady beneath every weary step. Upon entering your counting house, a sudden chill halts you at the doorway. Inside stands the intimidating figure of Captain Heinrich, head of the city watch, a man known for his cold demeanor, insatiable greed, and ruthless enforcement of questionable laws. His presence is a grim omen, and your heart sinks further, anticipating the inevitable demands that accompany his visit. Ah, good morning, banker, Heinrich greets sarcastically, eyes scanning your humble premises with thinly veiled disdain. I'm here on official city business. You nod submissively, motioning for him to speak, already preparing for the blow that follows. Heinrich smiles coldly, extracting a parchment sealed with official wax. A new tax, he announces casually, words hitting you like icy knives. The city requires another voluntary contribution from those of your profession. You swallow bitterly, rage burning silently beneath your calm facade. Heinrich's so called voluntary contributions were thinly disguised extortions, harsh reminders of your precarious social position. Refusal would only bring harsher penalties, perhaps imprisonment or accusations of usury, a charge punishable by public humiliation or worse. Handshaking, you reluctantly fetch a pouch of carefully counted silver coins, feeling their weight as a tangible measure of your helplessness. Heinrich accepts them without gratitude, his smile growing colder, crueler. You do understand, banker, he murmurs dangerously, voice barely louder than a whisper. Your continued well being depends entirely on your cooperation. He departs abruptly, leaving behind only resentment and a profound sense of helplessness. Your shoulders slump involuntarily, crushed beneath the invisible weight of authority. Each interaction reminds you starkly how little power your supposed wealth truly offers. Yet the day's miseries are far from over. Soon after Heinrich leaves, another visitor arrives, this one clad in somber black robes, the unmistakable garb of Father Elias, the priest who has made your existence a constant moral torment. His serene face, set in its habitual judgmental expression, immediately sets your nerves on edge. Peace be with you, Father Elias intones softly, though his voice carries unmistakable threat rather than comfort. We must speak urgently of your eternal soul. You nod silently, heart sinking lower. The church's visitations always mean further loss. The priest sits carefully, eyes never leaving yours, silently accusing, silently judging. Your business, he begins solemnly, is tainted by sin, corrupted by greed. The suffering your profession causes is grievous in God's eyes. You remain silent, long accustomed to such speeches. Yet the priest continues relentlessly, pressing deeper into wounds already raw. Without generous penance, you risk eternal damnation, he whispers softly, voice dripping with false compassion. The fires of hell burn hottest for those who profit from others' misery. Again, the bitter taste of helplessness fills your throat. You have no choice but to surrender another heavy pouch, this one filled with precious gold coins, payment extracted by threats of divine punishment. Father Elias accepts your offering smoothly, his eyes glittering greedily even as his lips form a prayer for your corrupted soul. He departs slowly, leaving behind a palpable sense of guilt and shame. Your wealth, the priest implies, is cursed. Only by surrendering more of it can you purchase fleeting forgiveness. Your daily life feels increasingly like an endless spiral downward, each payment a desperate attempt to delay an inevitable spiritual and social ruin. The remainder of the day passes miserably, a blur of meaningless tasks overshadowed by anxiety. Counting coins seems pointless, each piece representing nothing more than further demands from corrupt officials or greedy clergy. Your ledger, once your shield, now feels meaningless. Numbers no longer protect you from judgment or threats. Evening approaches slowly, the fading sunlight casting bleak shadows across your workplace. Exhaustion grips tightly, your body aching from relentless stress and illness. You close the counting house early, locking doors carefully, wondering how long these flimsy barriers can protect you from those who despise or covet your supposed wealth. Walking home through filthy streets, you remain watchful, paranoia deepening with each step. The city around you feels oppressive, the once familiar alleys now darkened, dangerous pathways where threats lurk unseen. Baldwin's recent threats echo sharply in memory, mingling with Father Elias's sinister warnings and Heinrich's cold intimidation. Enemies surround you. Your survival grows more uncertain daily. Inside your home, loneliness is deafening. Gerard's absence feels suddenly profound, his shallow, constant cough replaced by unbearable silence. Rats scuttle openly along walls, emboldened by your weakening presence. Food holds little appeal, your stomach churning anxiously at each morsel swallowed. Night descends quickly, darkness swallowing your dim quarters completely. The feeble candlelight flickers weakly, shadows dancing ominously upon damp walls. You sit, head buried in hands, despair flooding your mind, visions of debtors' faces, twisted in hatred, mixing grotesquely with priests chanting accusations, guards demanding payment, threats multiplying endlessly. Sleep comes reluctantly, dreams consumed by vivid, oppressive images. Captain Heinrich, smirking coldly as he empties your chests, Father Elias chanting damnation as flames devour your home, Baldwin's violent threats finally realized in brutal fashion. Each nightmare jolts you awake, heart racing, body trembling, drenched in cold sweat. You lie awake long afterward, listening helplessly to rats chewing through wooden walls, hearing distant shouts echo through darkened streets. Fear coils tightly in your chest, fear of tomorrow's demands, of worsening illness, of inevitable ruin. Wealth feels hollow, coins meaningless, symbols not of prosperity, but rather of endless torment, suffering, and threat. As dawn eventually breaks once again, bringing only bleak daylight and renewed anxieties, you know clearly your precarious reality. Authority sees you as prey, religion condemns you mercilessly, neighbors despise your very existence, yet escape remains impossible. Another day awaits, another grim battle against overwhelming despair, disease, and danger. You rise wearily, heart heavy yet resolved. Survival demands endurance, however bleak the prospect. Another day begins, filled with hatred, corruption, guilt, and threats. Your eternal companions, cruel reminders of your place within this dirty, dangerous world. As the daylight fades, surrendering the streets to creeping darkness, you step cautiously out from your counting house, locking the heavy door behind you. The iron key feels heavy, cold, and useless in your trembling hand, yet you cling to the fragile illusion of safety it offers. Night brings only heightened fear, each shadow stretching ominously before you, whispering danger, threats, and lurking violence. Walking the emptying streets, you pull your cloak tighter against the evening chill. The townspeople retreat into their homes, doors locked firmly against the unseen threats wandering outside. Lanterns flicker weakly from windows, shedding feeble light into the streets filled with darkness and danger. Silence settles heavily, broken only occasionally by distant drunken shouts or the barking of stray dogs. Passing through narrow alleys, your breath catches sharply at every sudden sound. Imagined footsteps behind you, muffled whispers lurking around each corner. You quicken your pace, heart racing painfully, dread creeping like cold fingers up your spine. Paranoia grips tighter, visions of Baldwin's violent threats consuming your mind, every passing shadow transformed into his menacing form. At last, Your home looms ahead, a bleak sanctuary offering temporary safety. Yet even here, danger lurks. Doors, windows, and walls incapable of fully shielding you from the world's endless hostility. Unlocking the door quickly, you rush inside, bolting it securely. Your breath comes in shallow gasps, body trembling violently, overwhelmed by dread and anxiety. Inside your dimly lit quarters, the silence weighs unbearably heavy, broken only by faint scratching behind walls, rats, your constant unwanted companions. Lighting a single candle, you cast a hesitant glances into corners filled with shadows, wondering irrationally if something or someone lurks within them. Fear has become your closest companion, darkening every thought, shaping every action. Dinner, once again a meal of stale bread and watered down wine, offers no comfort. Eating feels mechanical, your stomach twisting painfully, food tasteless and unfulfilling. Loneliness deepens with every bite, Gerard's painful absence more pronounced than ever, his empty chair a silent monument to your shared suffering. His fate feels disturbingly prophetic. Each cough, each drop of blood he shed, a grim preview of your own possible future. You finish eating quickly, anxiety making relaxation impossible. Outside, drunken laughter rings sharply, shattering the oppressive silence, reminding you harshly that violence waits patiently outside your thin walls. Pushing back your chair, you pace restlessly, each creaking floorboard amplifying paranoia. Your chest feels tight, breathing difficult, your entire existence dominated by ceaseless fear of what tomorrow, or even tonight, might bring. Suddenly, a heavy thud at your door jolts you violently, heart pounding fiercely. You freeze, breath catching painfully in your throat. Another thud, louder, more aggressive, confirms your deepest fears. Baldwin's threats flash vividly through your mind, each violent word echoing in chilling clarity. "Open, banker!" shouts a voice, slurred heavily by drink, yet menacingly clear. Baldwin himself, driven by alcohol fueled rage. "You can't hide forever. Tonight we settle your debt." You stand paralyzed, uncertain whether to confront the threat or hide silently. Another crash, door shaking dangerously beneath Baldwin's furious blows, forces action. Summoning desperate courage, you move forward cautiously, heart racing dangerously fast, lungs tight with panic. "I've nothing for you, Baldwin," you call desperately through the door, voice trembling yet determined. "Please leave, don't force me to summon the watch." Baldwin's laughter rings harshly, mocking your pathetic defense. "The watch?" He spits contemptuously. "They care nothing for scum like you. Open this door, or I'll break it down." The door rattles violently again, wooden hinges creaking ominously. You step backward, frantic eyes searching the dim room for anything capable of defending yourself, finding only your counting scales, a useless shield against brute violence. Fear swells uncontrollably, suffocatingly intense. Then suddenly, shouting from outside distracts Baldwin, angry voices arguing heatedly, neighbors disturbed by his noise. You hear Baldwin curse loudly, drunkenly, arguing briefly before footsteps retreat rapidly, leaving only silence and your hammering heart behind. You sag weakly onto your chair, relief flooding temporarily, leaving you shaking violently. Yet relief quickly gives way to renewed anxiety. Baldwin remains a threat, his rage now more dangerous, fueled by humiliation. Tonight you survived narrowly. Tomorrow might offer no such reprieve. Night deepens slowly, each passing minute amplifying your dread of morning. Darkness magnifies dangers, the quiet of night highlighting every small sound, scratching rats, creaking boards, distant voices rising and falling threateningly. Sleep offers no escape, merely another realm where fears manifest vividly. Eventually, exhaustion forces you toward bed reluctantly, the moldy sheets cold and damp beneath your trembling form. The mattress offers no comfort, merely amplifying discomfort, aches radiating sharply through exhausted bones. You lie awake, eyes wide open, ears straining desperately for sounds indicating renewed danger. Sleep finally arrives, restless, haunted by terrifying visions. Baldwin's furious face twisted with rage, Captain Heinrich seizing your coins mercilessly, Father Elias chanting endless judgment against your soul. Each nightmare wakes you gasping, cold sweat coating your skin, sheets twisted around you like bindings. Hours pass torturously, darkness seeming endless. Eventually, dawn's faint light slips slowly through dirty windows, dispelling shadows reluctantly. Rising exhausted, sleep having provided neither rest nor comfort, you face yet another bleak day, burdened with unending fears of violence, sickness, and ruin. Dressing mechanically, your mind remains clouded by relentless anxiety. Gerard's empty desk waits hauntingly, coins stacked menacingly high, each one a symbol of fear rather than prosperity. Your life, reduced to mere survival, feels increasingly hopeless, wealth offering neither comfort nor security, merely fueling greater dangers. Stepping once more onto filthy streets, neighbors' hostile gazes greet you immediately. Baldwin's threats echo sharply. Father Elias's condemnations linger ominously. Captain Heinrich's exploitation inevitable. You navigate carefully through growing hostility, understanding clearly how precarious your survival remains. Each step toward the counting house feels increasingly heavy, your chest tight with dread, knowing today will merely repeat yesterday's torments, compounded further by growing enemies. Coins, once promising security, now represent disease, threats, and danger. Your profession itself, now your greatest burden. Yet, even amid oppressive despair, you continue walking forward stubbornly, forced onward by grim determination. Survival demands endurance, however exhausting, however bleak the path. Tonight's terrors will return tomorrow, multiplying endlessly, yet retreat remains impossible. You sigh deeply, stepping through the counting house door, closing it tightly against external dangers, knowing such barriers remain thin, fragile illusions. The world outside, hostile, dangerous, filthy, waits patiently, certain eventually to claim you. Still, You move forward resolutely, coins waiting to be counted, threats awaiting confrontation, life reduced to repetitive cycles of dread, disease, and desperation. Thus, your day begins again, marked by familiar fear, another chapter in an endless, exhausting tale of a medieval banker, trapped eternally in the grim, dirty, dangerous realities of everyday life.